The year was 1981. Ronald Reagan had become the US president, and lore goes, one small boy was outraged over this. He saw the news on TV and he exclaimed, "He can't be president, he's a man." Not the reaction one would expect, right? Well, this boy belonged to Iceland. And at that time, the country, Iceland, was being ruled by a woman. This woman, Vigdis Finnbogadóttir. She was divorced and a single mother. In 1980, she had become Iceland's president. Now, what the boy did not know was this. Vigdis was Europe's first female president and the first democratically elected female president in the whole world. She was not the norm, she was the outlier. And she was president for 16 years. Thanks to her, many Icelanders grew up believing that being president was also a woman's job. That's rare even today. Vigdis attributed this to the events of one particular day in her country, the Women's Day Off. It was held on 24th October 1975. That's when 90% of the women in Iceland went on strike. They refused to go to work, to cook, to clean, or to look after children, to do anything basically, all for just one day. And the nation was brought to a standstill because women refused to work. It changed the way women were seen in that country. Women flooded the streets to rally for equal rights with men. In 1975, Icelandic women made 40% less than what men made. Today, that number is just about 9%. That's the pay gap, the lowest in the world. But they're not happy. They say, "You call this equality." In fact, this is their official slogan, "You call this equality." And they're going on a protest again tomorrow. History is about to repeat itself. About half a century since the OG strike that created shockwaves, tens of thousands of women across Iceland will take to the streets again. This time they have a singular agenda: equal pay. Women will stop all work, both paid and unpaid, tomorrow. And this time they'll be joined by non-binary people, people who do not identify as male or female. The strikers will include fishing workers, teachers, nurses, even the Prime Minister of the country, Catering Jakobsdóttir. She's joining the strike. Now, this is both ironic and a lesson for all, everyone in the world. And I'll tell you why. Iceland is a global leader on gender equality. It tops the global gender gap rankings. And it has done so for 14 consecutive years, meaning it has the least gender pay disparity the world over, yet it wants to do better. But in other countries, things are not so good. Iceland is followed by Norway, Finland, New Zealand, Sweden, Germany, Nicaragua. All of these countries have a pay disparity below 20%, which looks bad, but these are the top performers. In some countries, the situation is much worse, like in Pakistan, Iran, Algeria, Chad, where women earn 43% lesser than men. This is followed by Mali. And where does India stand? India has a pay gap of 36%. In China, it's 33%. In the US, it is 26%. I could go on, but you get the point. People may still say gender pay gap is a myth. If women had $1 for every time someone said this, they would be able to make up the pay gap. Because it is not a myth. It is our reality, stubborn and pervasive. More than 3 billion people are said to be employed worldwide. Out of these, more than 1 billion are female. But worldwide, women make only 77 cents for every dollar earned by men. And that's 1 billion people being robbed on a daily basis. What's worse, this pay gap has barely improved in the last 20 years. It may have hit a glass ceiling of its own. Equal work with unequal pay should be abnormal, not the norm. Icelanders see this. So they are pulling out all the stops and bringing their nation to a halt. We say kudos to them.